Have you ever seen a marketing team that looks extremely busy? They are posting constantly, running ads, pumping out content, launching campaigns, but somehow nothing is really improving. No real momentum, no long term growth, just activity. A lot of marketing teams today look busy. And I emphasize the word look because on top of trying to stay consistent and on top of trying to stay high quality, teams often feel this like pressure to constantly like create something new content, new campaigns, new ideas, new angles. And that weight of constantly needing something new, it can actually push teams towards busy work instead of valuable work. Sometimes that comes from leadership. Sometimes it comes from the team itself. But a lot of organizations start placing too much value on activity. Posting, launching, executing, doing things for the sake of doing things, instead of focusing on the work that actually builds long-term value. And this leads to what I call the marketing execution treadmill. Teams are constantly doing things. They look super busy. Posting because they have to post. Looking for like a trending audio or trending formats. Trying to replicate something that went viral or launching random campaigns just so they have something to talk about. Sometimes it's even reactive. Oh, crap, it's April Fool's Day tomorrow. Let's throw something together real quick. And it ends up being half-baked, not aligned with the brand, and not really adding anything meaningful. Just another piece of content. Another campaign, another thing to check off the list. Now, here's the tricky part. This type of activity can still produce some results, right? You might even get views. You might even get engagement. Sometimes you might even get customers. But those results are usually short-lived because they're not building anything deeper. They're not building trust. They're not building brand memory. They're not building the kind of customer loyalty that actually sustains a company over time. And that's the real danger of the execution treadmill. It creates the illusion of progress without building the foundation that long-term growth actually requires. So, why do marketing teams fall into this trap? I think there are a few reasons. Sometimes it's leadership. Sometimes it's pressure for quick results. Sometimes it's confusion. Marketing today is complicated. There are thousands of opinions about what works and what doesn't work, including mine, right here, right now. We are all inundated with all these opinions. And that creates a lot of ambiguity. And when things get ambiguous, people default to the safest thing that they can do. Stay busy. Execute what they know. Follow best practices. Even if those practices aren't actually right for the brand. But the real solution to this problem is architecture. Brand architecture specifically, that is. Because when a brand is clearly defined, something really powerful happens. It reduces the cognitive load of marketing. Instead of constantly inventing something new, the brand creates guardrails, a filter. I talk about it all the time, a decision tree, Ideas pass through the brand, through the positioning, through the messaging, and that makes execution easier, not harder, which is a common misconception. Inside a strong brand, anyways, you can actually talk about the same ideas over and over again in a strong brand, just from different angles, with different expressions. And that might feel repetitive to the marketing team, to you and your team, because they live inside it every day. But to customers, it's not repetitive at all. They're only seeing you on occasion, at best. They're just starting to understand who you are. So repetition actually builds clarity, and clarity builds trust. This is the difference between activity and momentum. Activity is just doing things, posting, sending emails, running ads, whatever. Momentum is when every piece of marketing builds on the previous one. Each message supports the next message. Each campaign reinforces the brand. Each piece of content adds another layer of understanding. And instead of feeling random, everything feels connected. And that's how momentum builds. And momentum matters because momentum creates trust. Trust creates memory. And brand memory is ultimately the goal. Because you never know exactly when someone is really ready to buy. All you can do is make sure that when they are ready, your brand is the first thing that comes to mind. So if a company realizes they're stuck on execution, on the execution treadmill, the first step is actually the work most companies avoid. They need to slow things down and do the deeper thinking, positioning, brand identity, messaging, customer perception, what they actually want their brand to stand for. And then they need to build a framework around that, a foundation, something that all future marketing decisions pass through. Because the fastest way to lose trust in a market is to say one thing about your brand and behave completely different. If there's one belief I would challenge about marketing productivity, it's this. Busy work is not the work. Busy work is just activity. The real work is building a brand strong enough to create customers, build loyalty, and sustain a company through all the ups and downs that inevitably happen. And the marketers who escape the execution treadmill have a massive advantage because most people aren't willing to do the deeper work. Even doing it halfway puts you ahead of most of the teams out there. And I hope you'll consider that. I know it sounds overwhelming. It could be overwhelming because you don't exactly know what to do. And if that's the case, stick around. Check out some of my other videos. Do your own research. There's plenty of content out there to teach you about real branding. But or the other thing is you don't believe in it. You think it's hokey BS that doesn't actually work. You need to get stuff done. Either way, I hope what I said will maybe help you either go out and find more info or reconsider your position on the importance of branding. And you maybe start applying it in your company or your brand or with your team. Either way, thanks for watching this video. I hope you'll subscribe, catch me on my next video, and check out my old videos. Until then, I'll see you next time.